Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope all of you are keeping well and your family members too. Today I have come up with a new video tutorial where I have tried explaining about how to do API scan using ZAP. So overall the objective of this tutorial or session is to perform the passive and active scan of the APIs. Additional steps that would be needed to perform the secured API scan. When I say secured APIs, I am referring to the APIs which are secured in some manner like basic authentication or token based authentication like this, right? So how we can perform the scan of such APIs. And lastly, we will discuss about how we can override the config rules or basically default configuration rules that ZAP uses as part of its framework to perform the API scan, right? So in some cases we might have to whitelist some scan result. So how we can do that? So there's a way to achieve this as well. So I'll be showing these three things as part of this session, and yeah, that's all. So before we begin, just for your information, I have created two I would say two things for you guys. One is the blog which is live now, and second this GitHub repos. So blog is nothing but again whatever we are going to discuss, it has all the necessary steps mentioned here, like all the commands and all. So if you want to use the commands, you can simply copy paste it here, of course by modifying the arguments based on your requirement. And then this GitHub repos is nothing but it has the necessary files that would be needed to perform this exercise that I'm going to demo it as part of this session, right? So these are the two things I wanted to discuss. And lastly, whatever the exercise I'm going to do as part of this session, I'm going to use Docker image of ZAP. So if you're performing or following this tutorial, then I would suggest to have the Docker installed into your local system, right? So let's begin. So as a first step, we will be performing the passive scan. Okay, and passive scan we can do in two different modes. One without secured APIs, and the second one would be with secured APIs. But in this example, I'm referring to secured APIs only. I'm sure it is. You can perform the same scan or similar scan for the non-secured APIs as well. The only change is we have to pass the additional argument for the secured APIs, right? So I'll show you. So as I said, this is the GitHub repos, and I have these files into my local system. I'll show you as well. You guys may ask, like, why we have these additional files into your local system but not present into GitHub, right? Because while performing this activity, right, when I was doing the setup and everything, I have tried multiple things and it got generated some scan result as the HTML format and some configuration as well for passive and active scan, and these files are not present into this GitHub repo. Of course, sharing this report, probably I can share it, but again, if you perform this scan, you would be getting the scan result. But yes, configuration, I'll show you how we can generate the configuration and then how we can override it also. But all these things we will be doing in step by step. Okay, so first step, to start the passive scan of the secured API. I'm starting with the secured APIs because I don't have any public API as of now. Yes, I can get it from the web, but I'm proceeding with the secured APIs. And if you wanted to perform the scan for non-secured API, just remove the last argument, which I'm going to tell you. Okay, so a few minutes ago, I have performed this scan results. Scan. So as you see here, this is the command. And as I said, I'll be using the Docker image. So you have to have the Docker installed into your local system. Okay, and this is the command. What I'm doing is basically I'm mounting the volume. So I'm saying read the current path and whatever the source code is there, put into ZAP under root folder and WRK work. Again, it's the directory. You can place all these files into the directory, into the Docker container, right? So again, this is part of Docker, and I'm saying get the read write permission, okay, or set the read write permission. and then this is the Docker image name, and then the next argument is a script that ZAP is going to use to perform the scan. This is the endpoint. Again, as I said, this could be your public endpoint as well. That's all. And if you run this, you should be seeing the passive scan result once the scan gets over. But in this, as I said, I'll be using the secured one. So this test API is the secured one, where I have to pass the additional argument, which is options.prop. And then the next argument says -z and g, and this is the configuration name. Okay. Since I'm performing the passive scan, so what I've done is I have named the configuration name as API passive scan.conf, and then finally I'm generating the report out of it. Okay, so this is the command that we have to run for passive scan. Now, before I run this, let's understand how we can pass the or what exactly this options.prop file, because this is one of the important things, which we generally implies into our live project or your personal project, because options.property file is mandatory or a must to have this file if you wanted to perform the secured API scan, right? And to understand this, let's go to the options.prop file, and as you see, this is the options.prop file which I have created and placed under the root of the project. And what this holds is, again, you have to create this file only, options.prop file. I'm not sure, if you can create a different file with .prop extension and if that works. Logically, it should work because it is looking for the prop file, but all this flow, right, for the secured API scan, it uses an external plugin, and that plugin, I'm assuming it looks for options.prop file only. But again, you can give a hit and try. But to proceed with, I have created an options.prop file, and then this prop file has the necessary configuration, as you see here. This is the syntax, which we have to use, where I am passing the authorization into the request header. So all these things you can define it here, and then I am saying, use this basic authentication. So this is the encoded value of test as a username and password, test as a password as well, right? But in your case, it could be something else. So you have to pass that basic authentication encoded value here, or token, whatever, or however your API is secured. So if it is token based, you have to pass that token here, and then you are done, right? So you'll be done with the setting the options.prop file, and then this prop file you have to just pass this as an argument while performing the execution of this API scan. Okay, so once I run this, let's see what happens. So what I'm going to do is, just for better clarity, I'm going to remove all these test reports, okay, so that we will come to know if the report is getting generated or not. So all reports are removed now, and I'm going to remove this configuration as well, and this config as well. Okay, so everything I have removed it. Now if you see, it has only options.prop file, and I'll come to this openapi.json and all, because you might have seen that these files are present in the GitHub as well. Okay, but we'll be using that as part of active scan, and since we are doing a passive scan, so I'm just proceeding with the simple API scan. Now let's hit enter and let's see what happens. Okay, execution started. It says could not find custom hooks file at this, but for now, we can ignore this. At this point of time, when I'm recording this video, I don't have the context what exactly this would do or how it will impact the API scan. But what I've noticed is once the scan gets over, you would be seeing the expected outcome, right? So probably I'll be reading about this, like why I'm getting this error, and if you guys wanna get more understanding, you guys can explore as well. But I'm sure that passive scan will get started soon, and it will show the necessary or expected outcome. Okay, here we go. So as you see, it has identified totals of 6 URLs. Okay, and these are the results: pass, 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 and some are warning, it says warning new, right? And let's see what it says. It said incomplete or no cache control header set. And this is the beauty of this API scan. You guys might be, since you are using this API scan, right? If you have come to this tutorial or this session, I'm damn sure that you guys are well familiar like why we are doing this, right? So just to give a brief information, we are performing this scan to ensure that whatever the APIs we have in the system, are those configured properly or not, right? That's the reason we are doing this scan, and based on the ZAP framework, whatever the rules it applies, based on that we will come to know if those are configured properly or not. And that's the reason, you know, we are seeing all these results, right? So there are many passes, but let's look at the warning one. It says incomplete or no cache control header set. Again, I'm not going through all these things because, you know, you guys can explore and do the necessary fixes for all this. But overall, this is the scan result of type passive scan of an API we have in the screen, right? And let's see if the necessary reports get generated or not. Ideally, it should generate the report. Yes, here we go. Right, so we have the passive scan -report.html and the config as well. I'll come to config at the next step, but let's look at the HTML file. Oh, sorry, I think I've copied the relative path. I have to copy the path, right? See, you know, we have the results here, and again, you know, you share this report to the respective engineer. They'll go through that if any high, critical, or if you wanted to address the medium risk level vulnerabilities as well. Let them add, share this report to them. They'll go through this and they'll try to do the necessary actions to fix them, right? But our objective is to have this report ready, and that is what we have targeted for. So we are done with the passive scan. Now let's quickly look or go through the config, right? I'm sure I'm trying to explain the the necessary things which we are intended to, right? Now the config file that we have, right? See, these are the rules that is getting applied by ZAP. Now let's look for the warning that we have seen. Okay, let's say if you go to this, let's say this is the warning new, which says incomplete or no cache control header. So this is coming from where? This is coming from nowhere, from this config. And if you look at for incomplete, you'll see that, see, it's there, and it is part of warning. But let's consider a case where we want to override this, right? So what we can do is we can put this into info. I'll say, okay, this specific result is not fit for us, or we want to whitelist it. We'll say this just as a info. This is not a warning for us. I'll just save this report and I'll perform the same scan, but this time I'll simply pass the configuration, okay, like this. That's all. Okay, and let's run this. So what I'm doing basically here is I'm passing this as a -c API passive scan.config. And ideally this should apply that rule. Okay, basically whatever the overridden part that we have done, right? We have changed the status from warning to info. That should pick this time it should pick that updated config, and it should apply the rules by reading that configuration file, and then we should seeing that expected outcome, meaning as a result we should remove this warning, and then ideally we would be having only 2 warning messages. As of now it is warning new 3, so we would be having only 2 warning, that's all. And yeah, let's wait for the result. Oh, okay, there's something wrong. Okay, sorry guys, I think it is expecting that -g argument as well, -g and then config. Yeah. So now let's see this. Okay, so if you guys notice, right, if you don't pass this argument, it says using the automation framework. But when we pass this argument, we are basically saying that, yes, generate this file, and then at the same time pick the updated configuration. Okay, and as you see now, we have only 2 warning, right? So see this result. This is something confusing for me as well. I'm trying to explain this because as per the documentation, -g says that to generate the configuration. But what I have found that is, again, this is kind of the challenge that I have faced. What I have found is, if you don't pass -g and this config name, it is unable to read this options.prop file. Okay, and that is what something weird for me. So I'm trying to identify that, like, why we have to pass this file again and again, because in active scan it is working as expected. Okay, if you generate the config file once and then pass the or updated configuration file by just passing this argument, that's all, -c and then config name. So again, this is a note for you guys as well. If you guys are facing this issue, don't worry, just pass this -g and then this config file, right? And that's all. This config file name is probably this is just a user input. This is based on what you have. What would be the config file name that you want to generate? That is your name. That's all. It is not like it's a predefined format that ZAP expects. Okay, coming to the result, as you see, 1 warning has gone, right? If you look at this one, there was 1 warning. There were total 3 warnings, 1, 2, 3. But since we have overridden the rules, and that warning has gone, and now you are seeing only 2 warning, right? So that is how we can, and that's how we can override the default configuration of ZAP as well. I hope it is clear. It is crystal clear for you guys. If you wanted to override the rules, how you can perform the secured API scan, and how you can perform the passive scan. So we have seen 3 things now. Now we are going to repeat the same steps for the active scan. Only change would be the command. Okay. So before I move to the next step, I'm sure that whatever we have seen so far is clear. I'll just quickly summarize. First, we have performed the passive scan of secured APIs, and in order to perform the secured APIs, we have to pass the options.prop file, and we have also learned how we can create the options.prop file and how we can pass that prop file as an argument. Okay. The next point, we have learned how we can generate the configuration just by passing this command, and then if you want to generate the report, we have to pass this argument. Here I said command, it is nothing but it's an argument. And then lastly, if you want to apply the updated configuration, we have to pass additional argument, which is nothing but -c and then updated configuration name. And once you do this, you will be having or seeing the expected outcome like this. Okay, and similar outcome you can see in the report as well, which got generated right after this scan. So this is about the passive scan. Now quickly move to the let's quickly move to the active scan. Yes, right. So as you see, for active scan, this is the command that you have to follow. Okay, as I mentioned, an active scan can be done using ZAP API scan.py. And for passive scan, we were using different script. Here we have to use different script. And here, we can pass the API specification as well. Either you can directly pass the API specification if you know the source. If not, then have the API specification downloaded into your local system, and then you can pass that as an argument, and then you will be done. You will be done with the API scan. Okay, so let's see in action. Okay, so what I'll be doing is basically again I'm going to follow this command. Okay, probably because the API specification I have in my local, so I'll just simply follow this command. Okay, oops. Again we are going to do the active scan now. Okay, and this is the command we have. Now let's quickly go to the argument. What I'm saying is we are saying that docker run, again mount the volume, okay, and then use this Docker image, pass this as a argument, where this time for active scan we have to use this script, okay. And then again, I have found this in the official documentation, probably you can validate that as well, but this is for the active scan. And OPI open API.json file, as I said in the beginning, you have to have the open API specs, or basically API specs for the list of APIs that you wanted to perform the scan, right? Once you have the API specs, download that into JSON format, because in this tutorial session I'm using the JSON format, but you can have the YML format as well, or any other supported format. Once you have this, you have to say, what is the format of this specs, API specs. We are saying this is like type of open API, and then generate the report. That's all. We are good. But again, this open API specs in this example which I have taken is also the secured one. This is basically nothing but this one is present as part of this API specs. Okay, in your case it can have more than one API or only one API, but it will have the list of APIs. Now if those APIs are secured, you have to pass the additional argument, which is nothing but options.profile. So let's do that. Oops. So what I'll do is I'll basically just quickly found that command, exact command from the history, and yeah. So yeah, this is the command, okay, where we have to pass the profile like this. Okay, so let's use this command. (2270), okay, yeah, 2270. Oops, I guess it's what is the ID? Yeah, 2770, sorry, 2770. Yeah. So this is the command, okay, where I'm saying again, look at this one. This is what I was referring to the previous points, where the way we are passing the prop file is different here. Okay, we have to pass -config and then specify the options.prop file. Since we are mounting this current directory sources to the Docker container, right? So whatever the direct files we have in the current location, that will be copied to the Docker container, and we have to pass that command as well, like where your options.prop file available into the Docker container, right? So that argument you have to pass, and then this is nothing but the report that we will be generating it, right? So let's see this, say this as a API scan, API active scan .html. Okay, and let's run this command. So since this will be performing the active scan, so it may take more time, okay, and because it has to scan a lot of it has to apply a lot of rules, and that would take more time. So till this execution happens, as I said, in the active scan also we can perform the same steps, where you can generate the configuration file, as you see somewhere here in this command. Okay, I might have generated some config file. Yeah, see this one, right? This command -g, again same like how we have seen for passive scan, right? So if you wanted to see the default configuration that is being used by ZAP framework for active scan, generate this configuration file, and then if you want to override it, just change the value, whatever you want to whitelist it, and then pass that as another argument, which is nothing but -c, and then updated configuration. That's all. Okay, so it says that number of imported URLs 3. In your case it may vary based on your input, and as you see, this is the result we have. Okay, see, it has performed more number of rules. I mean, it has applied more number of rules in the active scan, but in case of passive scan we have seen limited number of rules. Probably you can read more about, like, how this active and passive scan works in ZAP, but this is what we have in the output, right? As you see, it has identified total of 67 URLs, and there are many pass, okay, SQL injection, many things has passed, cross-site scripting, all these things have been passed, but there are four warnings, and these are like again warnings, right? And we have seen this in the passive scan as well. But now let's say if you want to override these rules or scan result for this specific case, go and update the configuration and then apply that configuration by just passing the argument into the argument while performing this scan. That's all. So this is nothing but, like, first generate the configuration. Let's see that in action as well. I'll say generate API active scan.config. Let's generate this. It might take some time, I think a couple of probably minutes, but overall this is the scan result which we have. And if you look at, we have asked to generate the report as API active scan.html, right? So let's see if this report got generated here, right? Now let's copy this path and see if we are seeing the similar output as passive scan. Of course it will have more result. So as you see, this has all the scan results listed here, right? So, and again, this is what we were trying to achieve, and we have achieved that. And yeah, so I'll just close all of them, and yeah, again it will do the similar thing, same thing, but the only change would be it will generate the configuration, and once you have the configuration, as I said, or we have seen in the passive scan, update the configuration and then apply that updated configuration while performing this scan, right? So you have to just run the same command, and then additional argument will be -c and then updated configuration. That's all. And if you perform that, you would be seeing the expected outcome based on the updated configuration. That's all, right? As you see, now it might have generated the additional configuration, which is nothing but, see, API active scan.config, which has more number of rules than passive scan. Let's see this. Okay, let's compare this. As you see, it has only limited number of rules here, but in this case it has more, right? See this. It has the list of many URLs, many rules. Okay, and you can see that, like these rules, for example, it has like passive and release. This is active and release, right? So it has like both combination of what we have seen in the passive, as well as what additional rules are needed for active. So you can see that configuration here. Now let's say if you wanted to override that, again just change that from warning to info and then apply that configuration as a argument while performing this scan, something like this. Okay, API active scan.config. That's all. And that's all. Config, probably you can just, let's say incomplete. When I say incomplete, let's look for this and change this to info, save this and then run this. Okay, so once this gets over, you will be seeing that warning count has decreased by 1 because we have changed the rules, we have updated the rules, and based on that you will be seeing the output, and you can see that output as into your directory, the generated output into the HTML format, right? So that's all from the API scan point of view using ZAP. But overall, just to summarize this, what we have learned so far is, first, how we can perform the passive scan of both secured and non-secured. Yes, I haven't demoed the non-secured one, but certainly you have seen and saw the expected outcome of secured API scan. So we have seen how we can generate the configuration, but just by passing the -g and then configuration file name. how we can override the configuration, right? Default configuration. Third, what is the usage of options.properties prof file, and how we can pass option.prof file to perform the secured API scan. I think fourth or fifth, where we have seen the same thing for active scan, where we have seen that for active scan there are like more number of rules that gets applied while performing the scan, right? And those rules are nothing but these are the rules. And also how we can override the active scan rules as well for the active scan of the secured APIs, right? And the next point, we have seen that how we can read the API specs and then we can perform the API scan on top of the or using the API specs file. So in totality, you have to just have the API specs, options.prof file, and if you wanted to override the default configuration, then you have to generate the configuration file and then update the config, and then rerun the same command just by passing the config file, right? So that's what we have planned for as part of this session. I hope whatever I have explained so far, it is clear. If you have any questions or any clarification you needed, or any sort of help to perform this activity for your project or for your official project, let me know. I'll be more happy to help you guys. So that's all for this session. If you need, as I said, these are the blogs which is created and it is live now, so you can go through these blogs as well. And this is the GitHub repo, right? So you can take this as an input to save your time, and then you can perform this. And I'm sure if you start practicing it for 1 or 2 times by your own, then you can simply implement the same thing for your live project. Okay, again, I'm hopeful that whatever I have explained so far, you guys have understood it. And as I said earlier, even if you have any single penny of doubt, let me know. I have the Gmail ID posted in that blog. You can share your queries there. I'll be happy to answer all of them. Okay, thank you for watching this tutorial. I hope you have learned something. Have a good day ahead. Thank you.